Hi, my name is Benjamin, and I cover data management and analytics for the InterSystems IRIS data platform in product management at InterSystems. In this video, I'll walk you through the advances in the new InterSystems IRIS 2025.1 release in the areas of system management and data management. Let's first touch on a couple of the system operation pieces. Database and which file expansion are things that happen completely automatically, so you'll never have to do this yourself. For these system operations, we've made them take advantage of some low-level file system operations that allow us to not have to really write data, but just allocate it in the file system, which gives us some nice speed-ups. Database compaction is something that you would do before truncating a database, for example, after you've purged a significant amount of historical data. We've now made that process smarter about how it deals with content that contains a lot of big string data. So you'll see some nice 30 to maybe even 50% speed ups for the worst cases. In mirroring, we've also simplified how you add a new database to your mirror or an existing database to your mirror. We can now automatically hydrate the backup member with the mirror database contents from the primary such that you don't have to juggle around database backups to add it on the backup member. We've also introduced a new ECP utility that offers you some of the functionality that currently you'd have to use the system management portal for, and it just blends in with some of the other command line utilities that you may be familiar with. All right, let's turn to the data management piece. I'll walk you through some of the advances on foreign tables, but just to set the scene, let me first talk a little more about data onboarding with InterSystems IRIS. We frequently talk about connect and collect approaches, and they're just two sides of the same coin. Connect means projecting data that is not managed by IRIS, such that you could query it in IRIS, and load data or collecting data means that you're ingesting it in IRIS, such that you can query it there and also manage it there, maybe change the structure to your advantage. So we'll focus a little more on some of the advances in this area through a demo. All right, I have a script here that contains the code to set up a foreign server, set up a foreign table, and also, and this is new in 25.1, uses the new privileges to manage who has access to foreign servers and who can create and manage them in the first place. Rather than execute these one by one, I'm going to run them through a new command called the load SQL command, which mimics load data. That is new and just allows you to do what you would expect it to do, to run a bunch of SQL statements in one go. It's fully similar to what you're familiar with load data. So as you can see here, you'll see the output, the detailed output of the various commands in the SQL diagnostic logs. Now we can use the foreign table that we created, and we can just select from it. So this data is actually coming from a MySQL instance, which was set up in the background as part of this demo, which borrows from a demo created earlier by a colleague of mine, Michael Gold. So if we want to take a closer look at what the query plan is, we can see exactly the statement that was sent to the remote server. And you can see here that it included the where clause that filters based on the rate column to the remote database to, for example, take advantage of any indices there, and more importantly, limit the amount of data that needs to be passed from the remote server into InterSystems IRIS. Another new capability in this release is the through command. With through server, I'm telling InterSystems IRIS that what comes next is a statement that you should just send straight to my MySQL server. So it can use functions and table names that are specific to your MySQL server without you having to configure any foreign tables or do any syntax translation on your end. So I can just run that here, and this statement is passed verbatim to MySQL, and then I see the results here on IRIS. So far, so good. Now, let's imagine that this is a fairly large data set, and I want to play with it locally. I want to switch from the connect paradigm to the collect paradigm. An easy way to do that is using a create table as select statement to get all the data for June 2025 over in IRIS as a new table. I can query this table and look for all of the reservations between June 21st and 25th, which are the dates of our Ready 2025 conference, the successor of the Global Summit event. Now, say that this data set does not contain just 16 rows, but 16 million rows, because it's just a super nice event. Now, in that case, if I want to do these types of analytical queries, I might consider using columnar storage. If I go and look at the query plan that I would get today, you can see that it does a blunt scan of the full master map. So this is very tedious. This goes through all the rows, fetches all the data from disk, etc. So what I can do now is I can convert a table in place. Say I want to convert my rate column to use columnar storage. Now I can see the result of that in my query plan. I can see that it already starts using some interesting vectors, vectorized query execution. But really to benefit from it, I should convert the entire table to columnar storage. But as you can see, you can be very precise in which pieces of your table you want to convert. And obviously, we also support the inverse. And now you can see that my query plan is using fully vectorized execution using these smart SIMD-powered vector operation to perform analytical queries. Also interesting to see here is something that is new in the query plan information. So we show more informational messages and also sometimes warning messages of things that may help you understand why a particular query plan was chosen and how you might be able to get an even better query plan. For example, it would warn you if your table doesn't have any accurate statistics, or in this case, it's telling us why it chose this particular value based on the query statistics. So that's using the runtime plan choice feature. So that was table conversion. Now, one more thing on the SQL syntax side is about paginating through or scrolling through a result set. So this is a simple query that you are familiar with. This is just selected. This is the top clause that has been supported by IRIS for ages. It's also the way how SQL Server allows you to select just the subset of your data set. However, this is a place where the SQL standard isn't really very standardized. So many other vendors are adhering to Postgres-style syntax, which uses the limit offset thing here. So that returns the data in a different, using a different model, but using the offset, you can select the data from the third page onwards and then limit the data that way. We also support the other way around, the actual SQL standard syntax, which is this, and which gives you the same result as what you just saw in the Postgres example. Now we support all three, so any users who come from another relational database background should find themselves able to use familiar syntax to scroll through large result sets in their application code. As one final thing that is new in 25.1, I wanted to focus on SQL auditing. So previously, when you wanted to audit SQL statements, you could only choose whether to audit dynamic SQL, embedded SQL, or JDBC or XDBC SQL. Now we've allowed you to use a much more fine-grained or much more useful way to filter that and really make sure that you only capture DDL statements and don't flood your audit database with all those with actual queries. You could also pick DML statements or utility statements such as this one to switch between databases. So that was, in a nutshell, some of the new data management capabilities. We talked through these. We talked about the through server command. We talked about SQL privileges, and maybe even more important, as of 25.1, foreign tables is fully supported for production use. And we're committed to enhancing it in the future, so you can expect some further enhancements to predicate pushdowns in the next release, such that we can push ever more work to the remote server if we're sure that it's capable of executing that part of the statement. Some of the other enhancements that we talked through, the load SQL from file command, the ability to convert tables between row and columnar layout, and the 3 different flavors to scroll through result sets. So those were examples of the new capabilities in the data management area that you can enjoy in InterSystems IRIS 25.1. If you have any further questions about those, please feel free to reach out to us through the developer community. Or better yet, just join us at InterSystems Ready 2025, a global summit event this year in June in Orlando. And we look forward to hear from you how you've enjoyed these capabilities, what you think of them, of how you want to apply them to make your applications more effective. Thank you.